So if you have questions, go ahead and type them in the question box, and if I can, I'll answer them during the session. Otherwise, we will have time at the end. So I'm going to talk about how to use Tableau. And a little who am I? So my name is Jonathan Drummey. This is a picture of the lake I grew up on in the southern part of the state of Maine, where after a long time away, I was smart enough to move back home. So this is where I am. And I am a consultant at Datablick, and so I do Tableau and Alteryx consulting with Datablick, and there's my contact information and Twitter handles. So the @HelpMeDatablick is where we post a Tableau tip of the day, and we're celebrating, about to celebrate 1 year of doing a Tableau tip of the day there. So we do Datablick does consulting, training, and we also do on-demand support for clients where they will buy a block of hours and use them as needed to take advantage of our expertise. So how do I know Tableau? To talk about how to use Tableau. So I started out with Tableau several years ago. I was a data analyst working in quality management at Southern Maine Healthcare, a smallish regional hospital system in the very southern part of the state of Maine, and working with Tableau with literally over 100 different data sources, over 1,000 different metrics. And Tableau is a tool that not only let us survive in the rapidly changing world of healthcare, but improve patient care and so quality of care and patient safety at the same time, and on occasion actually save some money doing it. So it was a great tool. People looked at me as this data guru guy, and I had a certain amount of that, but I also had a really awesome tool in Tableau. And where some people for hobbies build ships and bottles, I do Tableau. Tableau is my favorite piece of software I've ever used. When I started using Tableau, I actually bought a student license for myself and used it on the side. Got active in blogging about Tableau and active on the Tableau forums as well. And I also got my daughter involved in doing data visualization, so here she is organizing her Easter candy, and Tableau named me one of the first Tableau Zen Masters. So if you're not familiar with the Tableau Zen Master program, it's Tableau's version of the Microsoft MVP program, and they're really looking for these 3 areas of people who are masters of the software, are able to teach with others, and work well with others. And so for that, Tableau's given me a stack of rocks over the years. And so that's kind of the short answer of how I know Tableau. So in this presentation, I'm going to be talking about how to use Tableau, but really as much how not to use Tableau. And this is based on my experience helping, at this point, thousands of other users with Tableau, things they're trying to do, and ways to use and not use the tool. So a lot of times when we're starting out working with Tableau, and as we're introducing new users to Tableau, so pretty much every time I'm talking to Tableau user groups and stuff, I'll do a poll of how long have people used Tableau, and because of Tableau's growth recently, always a majority of the people have used Tableau for less than a year, if not less than 6 months. So there's always a lot of new users, and within organizations, a lot of growth. So that said, when it comes to business intelligence, people will have views like this one that I'm showing that they've built, where they've written some calculations in Excel and put something together. So this is, I'm using Tableau's Superstore sample data for this example here. Or maybe they have a view like this of survey data that they've had coming out of Excel or another tool. have some sort of dashboard where they have on the right side of the dashboard, or one side of it, they have a ton of filters, and it lets people kind of slice and dice through their way. They can expand and collapse some hierarchies, building out views like this in their tools. And all of these tools, all of these can be harder to build in Tableau, or they're actually less useful views at helping people answer their business questions. And so they're not necessarily so easy to build in Tableau. So what I really like to do here for you who are looking at Tableau, is change your mind about whether you're going to really just try to migrate your existing views into Tableau, and talk about some alternatives and a tiny bit on how to build those alternatives, just for time. So this really comes down to our mental models of how we see and work with data, and our mental models are ultimately guided by the tools that we have. So in a lot of cases, where people are coming from and looking at one of the new visual tools, whether it's a ClickView or a Spotfire or a Tableau or even Power BI, is what they're coming out of. We can look at that kind of like a Honda Civic. Totally functional car, gets us around from place to place. We can do it, but we want the new thing. So we can see in these new tools, we can see, okay, here's our old view, here's our new view. We can build something that looks like our old view and get those same results. So there's this presumption that this new tool, whatever we're using, whether it's a ClickView or Power BI or a Tableau, is really like a souped up Honda Civic. So we've got the fat wheels and the splashy paint and all that. And the piece in terms of talking about Tableau and the mental model of how Tableau is really Tableau's more like a Formula One race car for your data. So it's still a car, still has 4 wheels and everything. You can take your Formula One race car to the grocery store, just like you can take your Excel, but it's not going to work so well. Where you're going to put your groceries in it, you're probably going to bottom out on a speed bump at your grocery store, that kind of thing. But you take it out to the racetrack, so you find the use case where Tableau is good at, and Tableau is going to run laps around that Honda Civic of your existing BI tool. So we're each coming in with our own mental models of data and data visualization, and Tableau overlaps a lot with our existing models, which is where part of why Tableau has been so successful. And at the same time, there's a space where Tableau is different. So I'm looking to help you extend in this next hour, extend your mental model a little bit about what Tableau is and is not. And so how you can use Tableau effectively if you're implementing it. So this is what Tableau is designed to support, is the cycle of visual analysis, where we start out with some sort of task. We're going to get data, choose some sort of visual mapping for it. Even if it's just a plain old text table, we're still visually mapping that data in some way, viewing the data, developing insight, sharing that, taking some action, and then moving on. Only we all know that this cycle of doing this doesn't really happen in a nice cycle. We determine a task, and then we're like, okay, we really think a bar chart would look great for this, but we want to have some reference lines on the bar chart so we can show our targets, and we don't have that in our data set, so we need to go back and get that data before we can go back to our mapping and so on. So this is what Tableau is really fundamentally designed to support. So just to start out with a little demo with this, so to start out with Excel here, so here I have a Superstore data set, which is the office sales from a fictional office supply superstore. So we have all these rows of data here, and when I connect to it in Excel, this is what I see. And then, so there's sort of, okay, what do I do next for doing this data? And at the very top of Excel, we have our paste, fill, clear, and then we have this stuff around formatting, fonts, alignment, numbers, stuff like that. So if I know a little bit more about a Tableau, then I can go to charts and maybe start inserting some sort of chart on it, or maybe in this version of Excel, our pivot tables are hidden there, and I can start creating an automatic pivot table, which has chosen some things that don't necessarily make sense for this in terms of, not sure where where'd my builder go? I'm not going to try to find that window now because we're going to not talk a ton about Excel. So this is kind of where Excel is, where we're seeing things, and then we can use these other tools that have been added to Excel over time to look at our data. Tableau is a little different. So switching over to Tableau here, let's go to my new worksheet. Right here, so here I've connected to Superstore Databricks. I can drag over my orders data source. So this is all the worksheets in this particular data source. Tableau is now showing me that cross-tab view here, and I can do some things to clean up data, but then down here at the bottom is go to worksheet. And now I'm seeing Tableau is automatically categorize my data into dimensions and measures. So this is Tableau's best guess about what's a dimension, what's a measure in my data. And we can change these as we go. But then I can start doing things like if I want to do that region, sum of sales, I'm dragging and dropping the elements of my data onto the canvas. And then as I rearrange these elements, Tableau is automatically creating different charts for me. And if I want to, build out hierarchies on the fly, I can say, yeah, product category, product subcategory. Here's a little product hierarchy. For example, I can build that, drag that out. I'm seeing this issue like this. I can say, no, actually, I want to look at this by region. I can sort these, et cetera, in just single clicks. So I'm interacting with my data and creating visual representations of my data. And if I want different visual representations, I can manually control my marks and change things here, or I can use show me, which will give me different representations. So I can look at things and go, well, what would a tree map tell me about the data? And I went back, sorry about that. And I just upgraded my laptop, which was a bad thing to do right before a presentation, to the new version of Mac OS, and Tableau isn't happy about it, and that's why we're seeing this. So if I just select product category, product subcategory, region, and sales, and then I can click on the tree map, and there's a tree map, and the messy bits you're seeing here where the titles are part of this bit of bug in the new version of Mac OS, unfortunately. But we can do other views as well. So I'm just single clicking and I'm getting completely different charts out of this. But the charts are made out of the arrangement of the pills in the view. So if I put region on rows here, then I'm going to see a series of charts like this. Let's move that back to color. Maybe I want region as shape as, so I can control drag or command drag region onto shape. You know, I'm dual encoding my marks. So very quickly, we can explore the data and generate stories out of the data. So in this, where this comes from in terms of mental models is that Excel's mental model is over 200 years old. It's based on the paper spreadsheet. And Tableau's mental model comes out of research in data visualization and what works and doesn't in data visualization. And this is one particular piece by Jacques Martin from the 1950s, where he was looking at what are the most important elements in data visualization in how people actually perceive the world. So there's a difference between these tools. So Excel's origin is in paper spreadsheets. Tableau's is in the science behind how people perceive data. One big difference in a tool like Excel is we can create data. Tableau is purely, at this point, a tool for visualizing data. It is not changing our underlying data. So in that way, IS and IT departments are often a lot more okay with allowing Tableau to be implemented and added as a tool in your toolbox. In the initial version of Excel, it couldn't connect to any other data sources. There were no charts initially in Excel, no interactivity in Excel, not a web native tool. A number of these things have all been baked into Tableau from the beginning. Being native to the web was something added to Tableau. Often when people will get questions about big data, how much data can it handle? So even today with Excel, we're limited to 1 million rows in the data set. With tools like Power BI, we can run queries on larger data sets, but we're still ultimately limited in what we can do. Tableau, I've worked with data sets with over 1 billion rows and gotten extremely good performance. And part of that in Tableau is that Tableau does have its own technology for working with larger data sets. And at the same time, it's built to leverage existing databases. So if you've got a nice fast SQL server, you can use that and tune that and get that working fast. So and now I'll talk about one other difference between the tools, and that's in data structure. So very often we see data layouts like this that are cross-tab views, and in those, so for example in Excel, even something like this, it's a cross-tab view, or I'll open another one. I don't have that open right now. So let's go to this one, and I'll go to a view like this. So sales per customer per year and everything. And in Excel, we can very easily build charts like this in Excel, build things from this. So if I want to take all these things and insert a line chart over time in Excel, even then it's kind of loses track of which goes where for the data, and then we've got to edit it and everything. Whereas in Tableau, if I take this same data set and just start a new worksheet here, and data Excel, and I connect to this Superstore, or this customer year sales. Right here, Tableau right now is loading the data source in the background, and this is another effect of my upgrade right now is this takes 20 seconds when usually it takes under 2 seconds to do this. So there's my data right here. If I try to build things like this in Tableau, one of the things users will run into is, as a new thing, is that they're like, okay, I want to build a line chart here, and I just can't build a line chart. And it's kind of a pain to do in Tableau. And the reason why is that this particular data set, if I go back and edit this data set, has been built out so that humans can look at it. So back in Excel, this is a fantastic view for humans to look at, and we lay out data that way. And this is part of Excel's design, and this, it's what you see is what you get out of a spreadsheet. And Tableau thinks more about data like it. So in that way, when we're working with Excel, we can have the underlying data for that sheet really could have been in any sort of underlying sheet and just placed into this kind of layout. Whereas in Tableau, Tableau likes a more columnar layout like this. So one of the things Tableau has done, even since Tableau likes that, is to make that possible. So we can take this data set and it can select all those columns and then pivot them. And so now I have this, and I can just delete these two fields that I don't need anymore, and now I have a data set that I can work with. Here's my customer name, here's my pivot field names. I can convert that into a full-on data if I need to, but I don't really need to. And then here's my values. I'm getting a bar chart for each of these, or if I want a line chart, I can have a line for each of my customers in just a few clicks. So that is a fundamental difference between these tools, between cell references and Tableau using records and fields. And this is one place where if you're starting to use Tableau, if you're starting out with a bunch of Excel-based data, or you haven't had the time, the energy, the resources to build out a data warehouse, you're going to be a little slower getting going with Tableau. You can certainly find some quick wins, but where Tableau has the fastest, biggest wins, or where the data is more structured before people implement Tableau. So the next place. So in Excel, there are differences between the tools. In Excel, our formatting is really derived from the cell references themselves, and in Tableau, the formatting is derived from columns in the data. So when people are trying to build out views in Tableau, sometimes they'll get a little stuck as they're doing that, because if I want to color things, and I'm just going to go back to Tableau 9.3 because these Tableau 10 bugs are driving me crazy right now. So 9.3 is starting up. And so just to demo this in Tableau for a second, if I have, let's take region on columns, and I have order date as well, so I'm looking at each here for each customer, and then I have sum of sales here as a line chart for each of them. So I didn't have to tell Tableau to make a line chart here. Tableau automatically said, okay, you've got a year here on your columns, so we're going, and you have a continuous value here on rows. A line chart's probably the way people are going to want to view this kind of data. So from this, if I want to color this, I can just put region on color, and now I've colored my data by region. Or if I want to put sum of sales on color, so to go back here, I can just drag sum of sales on top of region, and now I see that in this color layout. Or I can do sum of profit. So how's my profit in each region, showing us where they are. So it's using the attributes of the data to derive that, not so much right-clicking on a cell here and saying, okay, I want this to be blue. We can do those kinds of things in Tableau, they just take more work to do. So that's conditional formatting. So aggregation and calculations. So when we're in other tools, like this, for example, or back in building out a pivot table, we'll have to do some amount of telling the tool what to do. So if I want in my orders table, let's say I'm wanting to know orders where the sales were greater than 50,000, or maybe I'm going to add a column. Let's make it 10,000 in Superstore. So I can do like a sum if here, and then change in the criteria. So I can do W1 and W10,000, and my criteria would be greater than 10,000, and so on, that kind of thing. So Excel gives us a formula to do it. We're entering a formula in Excel. In Tableau, let's go to 937, and I'm just going to connect Superstore here. I'm just going to edit this and bring out my order source. All right. So I'm back. So I'm using Tableau 9.3 here because we'll run into some of those rendering bugs caused by Mac OS. And so if I want to do that sum of sales, let's get my order source there. Let's go to worksheet. There we go. So I can create a calculated field here, which would be if sales greater than 10,000, then I'm going to return something. So maybe I'm just doing a Boolean, sales greater than 10,000. In Tableau, and now it's created as a dimension. So now I have this in my data as something that I can use to sort my data on. So is my sales KPI false or true? And then once I have this, then I could sum up sales, for example. So this is the sum of sales where the record level values of sales are greater than 10,000. Summed up across the entire data set, and then if I want to look at that, I can view data. This shows my aggregation in the view, and then I can see the underlying data. Scroll over here, and there's all my sales, and we can see that they're all over 10,000. So Tableau is always aggregating our data as we're working with it. And then there's all the formulas that we can do in Tableau, like we can do Excel. So as I'm creating a calculated field on here, so I'm sorry the sales KPI didn't actually show up for a second. Let me just show that. I didn't have this. I've got two screens open and this wasn't in the screens. So I just wrote sales greater than 10,000. And here we can see Tableau has a bunch of different functions that we can use. So a lot of the same as Excel functions. Tableau syntax is kind of this, it's a little bit of a mix of SQL syntax and Excel syntax in things, and in some cases it's a combination of both. So if I wanted to write this as an if statement, I could write if sales greater than 10,000, then true, else, false, and we can use single quotes and double quotes and things like that in Tableau. So it's effectively returned the same results in the view, only it's a string now instead of a Boolean. Also in Tableau, Tableau has a number of other aggregations and calculations built in. So if I have order date, and so Tableau automatically knows about our date hierarchies. Here's my sum of sales as a series of line charts. I can do a quick table calculation and do running totals. So this is the running total over all time. And then if I want to, I could change this table calculation to a compound annual growth rate. So doing more complicated calculations in, and I can say relative to first or previous, what's my growth rate within each quarter over time. So build out fairly complicated calculations in just a couple of clicks. And this is very different from Excel, where in Excel, we could write those calculations and be referring to anything that we wanted to in the view, whereas in Tableau, what we're seeing here is based on what I have, for, we call these pills, in the view. But if I drag something else into the view in Tableau, here's my compound annual growth rate different from prior, broken down by product category. Maybe I don't want this view. I can drag this onto color and see that. So we can generate multiple views of the data without having to rewrite all our calculations or all our sum ifs or other more complicated calculations. So Tableau is using cell references, and, Excel is using cell references in Tableau. We can be working with multiple grains simultaneously. Now to talk about these other two things, visual inspiration and the company missions here. So Excel makes views like this really easy to create. So if you have this question, is these bigger from 2012 to 2015? Kind of hard to tell in this sort of view. So you have to look back and forth and figure it out and judge, and maybe we're there or not. But ultimately, where Excel's model of chart building comes from is, this is about Excel 97 or so, a chart from way back when, is stuff to work on slides. So the physical transparencies of slides. And so even though Tableau or Excel has evolved from that, it's still got this older model of working. Whereas Tableau is coming out of, one of the pieces of Tableau's basis is Jack McKinley's PhD thesis. He's, after his PhD, he worked at Xerox PARC, and then Tableau hired him on. And this is how to automatically lay out and present data. So if I'm in Tableau, and I have that sum of sales by region, and I'm looking by year, here's my sum of sales, we can immediately start telling more, or maybe I want to do these as stacked bars, for example. And look at that, and we were looking at East as the topmost one. I can actually drag and drop this and put this on the bottom and do that comparison. But the easier view is really just Tableau's default, which is looking at a line chart for this data, and we can easily see this is bigger, and it's bigger by about between 20 and 30%. And now on to the original mission. So where Tableau's a little different. So Microsoft's mission has been a PC on every desktop for a long time. Taking on another BI company, SAP's mission from a couple of years ago, a lot of words in this. Tableau's has been help people see and understand their data. That's been their mission from day one. So there's this tremendous focus on what can we do to understand things in there. So I hope this helps you get a sense of how these tools are different. I'm going to go to one more metaphor on this. So in 2007, this was a top-of-the-line smartphone. So keys on the bottom, little color screen, you have a little pointer there for moving around and navigating. The green and red button calls. And then this company, this other company that had a laser focus on what the user experience is in manipulating a handheld device, got into the mix and came out with the iPhone. And within 4 years, it got very hard to find a phone like this anymore, because there'd been so much work invested in enabling this user experience to be one of delight. So we swipe up on the view and we scroll, and the scroll accelerates, and then it slows down in a very natural way. If we hit the end, there's a bounce when we're scrolling. So Tableau does the same thing as they're working within Tableau. So views like these three views that I showed earlier can be a little bit harder to build in Tableau. And I urge you to not try to build them in Tableau, because they're not necessarily that great ways of viewing with data. And trying to use Tableau like that is like trying to use your smartphone just as an old school rotary telephone. So I'll give an example of that really quickly. So if I have this, to go back to PowerPoint here, so going back to this kind of view. So just a question of what is it we're trying to show in this view, because this is just a text table with a bunch of numbers in it. So do we want to know, so here's my product subcategory, and here's my sales, and I'm going to break them down by month of order date. And notice Tableau's default here is showing us all of our data. We're getting to see that. So I can make this into a text table if I want to. And then actually it's going to show me a bunch of labels. All right. And I can make this discrete. And I guess my operating system upgrade is affecting this version of Tableau as well. So I'm just going to select the last 4 months here, keep only on this. And let's take this off. And that is just so broken right now. So I'm going to skip that part of the demo. In talking about these. So I will say for me in learning Tableau, part of where I come from is that I wanted Tableau to do everything I could do with conditional formatting in Excel, and I actually built this out in Tableau using a whole bunch of different techniques to show how we could do conditional formatting. So this viz is available online. It's been viewed over 100,000 times at this point because of everybody who's trying to do conditional formatting in Tableau, just like they used to. And this is where I'm going to urge you to go in a different direction. So as you're learning how to use Tableau, certainly learn how to use the tool itself. Understand your data structure. Take some time and learn visual analysis. This is Tableau's sweet spot, is visual analytics. And then also where you're designing, when you're designing dashboards for interactivity over the web, that's something to pay attention to as well. So in using Tableau, there's the online help. There's a tremendous amount of online tutorials out there. You can get training from Tableau. Datablick offers training. We're now building out training for Pragmatic Works. So in the next couple of months, you'll start seeing more about Tableau training from Pragmatic Works. Tableau's documentation, there are a number of Tableau books, and there's also the Tableau community website, which I'll bring over right here. So there's over 100,000 users on the Tableau community, asking a tremendous number of questions there. There's me in the last 12 months. Doing things, and there's also, at this point, there's over 150 Tableau blogs out there. So the way I often answer Tableau questions is I'll start searching on a problem like Tableau, like let's say we're looking at hospital readmissions. And then here's a bunch of different links to different people who've done things in Tableau and elsewhere. So thinking about your data structure, so this is an area, I alluded to this earlier, where if you've got data and it's reasonably well formatted, Tableau you'll be able to jump off and do things right away. If it's not, it's going to take a little work. So there's a question of how messy is your data. If it's a little bit messy, that's fine. If it's a lot messy, you're going to need to use another tool, whether you're going to do some cleanup in Power Query or something like that, or use one of these tools, Alteryx, Trifacta, LavaStorm, etc., that are modern tools that are trying to do for data preparation what Tableau does for the cycle of visual analytics. So, and I've been using SQL for a long time, and I thought, yeah, I can write my own queries and get my work done and make everything happen. And then I used Alteryx, started using Alteryx for the first time, and I was literally saving a day of work for every day I worked in the tool. It just sped things up so much. So those are things to check out. if your data is in that space of a lot messy. And also don't make yourself wait for perfect data, because if you're waiting for the 2-year data warehouse project to get done, your business needs are going to get changed by the time the data warehouse is done. And this is part of the reason why Excel is the most commonly used BI tool in the world. And number 2 is probably Microsoft Access, is that people need to get their jobs done, and a tool like Tableau helps them do that. Now to come to the visual analytics piece of using Tableau. And this is where in Tableau we can do that really fast data exploration, but in a lot of cases we're building out dashboards, or we have a presentation we're doing, and we have questions that we're asking of our data. And in a lot of cases, the kind of old school views that we create of cross tabs and conditionally formatted heat maps are not really serving all the needs. And it's a place I find with Tableau, it's not built into the tool so much because we can create all these different charts really quickly, but it really helps speed up the deployment when we're switching out our tools to ask some refining questions here. So what is the business question that this particular view is trying to answer? What are we trying to make? What is, in a view that has 20 different numbers on it, what's the most important number? One I really like to ask is, after I see this view, I will do something. So in a number of cases, when a tool like Tableau is first introduced, people will say, well, this view is great and everything, but I just need a data dump because I'm going to put it in Excel and manipulate it myself. So in that case, asking them, well, what are you going to do in Excel with it? And finding out the answer to that, because maybe that's something Tableau can do if they want to sort the data. We'll build that sort into your Tableau view, which also gets this last one of what is the next action. And the most actionable dashboards and views we can build out in Tableau are the ones where somebody can see that and they know who they're going to need to call or send an email to, or maybe it's a workload dashboard. I just saw an awesome dashboard built by a major East Coast bank where they are saving people hours every day. They're originally getting this data dump that was coming out of SQL Server reporting services that was a kind of a list of things to do. They'd get it into Excel, sort it and filter it, and kind of figure out who were the partnerships making loans that needed attention for making bad loans, or making a number of applications for loans but not converting them into full-on approvals. And by doing some work in Tableau and spending some time with their users at the time they're building out the Tableau dashboards, they were able to get to something that came out of these managers now have a work list coming out of Tableau that they can have on their laptop or on their iPad as they're bringing out and going out to the different car dealerships to talk with people. So amazing work, and that's going to be a presentation at the Tableau conference. So in this, interrupting our process a little bit so we're not just going into Tableau to push out dashboards that are duplications of what we've done, but ask some refining questions, really speeds up our implementation time in Tableau and the satisfaction of our users. So in a view like this, if we're asking what are the trends, then we can look at, okay, what's an appropriate mark type for this, and so the line chart ends up working better. Or a view like this, which is really kind of a how are we doing? Well, in this, there's the implication of how are we doing compared to what? Is it last year or this year? Do we have some sort of targets? Can we build out those targets? And well, okay, what of these different survey questions that we're showing here, which one is offering us the biggest opportunity of improvement? So we really want to show what the difference is between our target and our 2015 line, or the average of the past 3 years, or something like that. And then sort our view by that. Or in a view like this, maybe we're getting into the space of, okay, who do I need to talk to about improving our profits? Or providing some sort of a drill down to show where the profit is, instead of showing all of this. Or one other example of this, on this. So this is that same data set where I've just done this, and it's really a few clicks in Tableau where I've sorted this by profit, and now we're seeing who has the lowest profit and a sense of where our biggest variances are. And we can see tables is a big problem, but where we have all of these different regions or states that we're in, we could go into another view and show more of them at once. And this is where a view like this can start getting interesting, where I'm showing every customer segment, every state, every product subcategory all at once across the whole data set. And I can use this for my dashboard and start scanning across it. Maybe I might want to go to the sheet. I'm going to change my profit range, use full color range, and give me some more steps here so I can see what's going on this dashboard. And now I can start reading down and across this dashboard and let my eyes be drawn to what matters. So for example, what's going on here where there's just no sales going on across a whole variety of things in this state. Or if I look across, there's this row here, corporate rubber bands, Alabama, and now this is drillable to start seeing these different things. And of course, Tableau is going to break on me right now. So I apologize for this. So these kind of views get at that. Or to show another one of this profit bars, even to take a sheet like this, and instead of just having people filter through things, and is that we can drag out additional dimensions on this. So I could put region here on columns, and now I'm broken down by region across all of these, and I'm able to see these different categories. Here, I don't need that header in there. So drawing us a different picture very, very quickly. And just where there'd been a question at the beginning about ClickView. So this is one of the things with what I think of as kind of old school BI tools, of which older ClickView is like, is that a lot of those dashboards will have a lot of filters like this, and it's a very exploratory dashboard. People can find, can hunt for patterns in the data and see them. And this is enabled by ClickView's in-memory technology, which also ends up limiting the size of data sources that we can work with. In Tableau, where Tableau is certainly doing a lot of caching and putting things in memory, views like this aren't ideal to build in Tableau. And instead, we can build more drill-down kind of views like the one I showed that broke. But also, we can think about showing people more of the data at once, and give them more of that big picture of the data. And then, of course, the other difference with ClickView is ClickView does do more in the data prep area than Tableau does. So for web interactivity, certainly get to know filter actions in Tableau. If you're embedding in portals or third-party tools, Tableau has a JavaScript API that Tableau keeps on building out and adding more functionality to. And then there's some places where the kinds of interactivity that people want in the tool, they want a huge amount of control and very fine-grained control over that user flow. that Tableau, where we're doing more with configuration in our data and laying that out, doesn't quite give us, they end up going to something like B3 to do that. So maybe Tableau is a prototyping tool, and then they're taking that and implementing that in something like B3. So that's using Tableau. And hopefully that convinced you Tableau was a bit of a different race car, though Tableau 10 on the Mac on El Capitan means a big pit stop. So in the time we have left, just to mention, do a little plug. So if you're just starting out with Tableau, ordinarily we'd be plugging the Tableau training for Pragmatic Works right here, since we don't have that built out yet. If you're just starting out with Tableau, we can work with you and do 1 or 2 week proof of concept projects. Tableau has a free 2-week trial, so that can be no cost on software, just on consulting. If you are working with Tableau already, you can use our expertise at Datablick and buy a chunk of hours from us and help you with a particular project. Or one of the things I do is I have calls every week with some clients, and where I'm just available as a center of excellence kind of thing. So at this point, do we have any questions?
We do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. We actually have a lot of questions, so I know we won't get to them all today. So I'll just kind of go through and pick some out. And then...
Yeah, if you want to pick them out, and I'd be glad to, if you want to send me the full list of questions, I can at least get answers to them and put them out with the follow-up materials from this webinar.
Great, yeah, that'd be great. We could put it on our blog site. So, all right, yep. Go back to the start and work my way down. All right, let's see. How well does Tableau perform when the tables from the data warehouse are several million records, even when aggregated?
Even when aggregated? So there are two, so there's a big division here between whether, oops, click on a button there. So within Tableau, I'll just do one. Okay, I'll come back to this one later. So the big difference is, are you working with a live connection or are you working with a Tableau data extract? So a Tableau data extract is a technology that Tableau built because people had slow data sources. So if I'm aggregating across several million records and I have a fast data source, use that data source, because if let's say I have several million records and then I'm showing a view of my product by year. Maybe I have 1,000 products, 5 years of data, so that's 5,000 marks. That's going to be really fast for your database to aggregate and show, because all that's going over the wire from your data warehouse to Tableau is those 5,000 marks. If you're trying to show 5 million marks in Tableau, you can do it. I've seen somebody do 600 million marks in a single Tableau view on a map. And it took a while to draw, several minutes to draw, but Tableau can do that. So performance tuning in Tableau is about having a fast data source, and then this question of how complex are the views you're trying to do. And by and large, I don't really start thinking about Tableau performance until I have views where I'm showing a lot of views on the same dashboard that are doing very, very different things, because Tableau will do caching under the hood to try to get the best query to get the most results. So it has to hit our underlying databases the least possible. So if I'm doing a whole lot of different stuff on a single dashboard is one way, or if I'm trying to display more than tens of thousands of marks in a single view. Other than that, performance generally is not that big a deal.
Okay. Next question. Can Tableau be used to replace SSRS for reporting, mainly for redefined reports?
I'm not sure what redefined reports are. In terms of replacing it for SSRS, Tableau is not a full-on tabular reporting tool in terms of it was designed for the screen and to be interacted with on the screen primarily. So like I've done more than most to try to make Tableau output PDFs with exactly the formatting that I want, and honestly it can be harder than SSRS. So if you're using something like SSRS or Crystal for that tabular reporting, maybe you're still going to need those tools. On the other hand, there's tons of stories out there about people replacing hundreds of pages of tabular reports with a single interactive viz. So there's a bit of a question of, are your users ready to go towards interactive views in what they do? And can you spend the time to get them exactly the interactivity they need, such that the interaction on the screen is going to be as good as or better than the paper that it's replacing?
Okay, I think this will be the last question. Can you embed a Tableau report in your own web app?
Totally. So I will show you one right now. So going to Databricks blog site, and Tableau conference is coming up. It's a fantastic experience. This is a picture of last year's Tableau conference. So this view is a web page. Whoops, I clicked on the wrong link. I meant to click on this one. So this was developed by my partner Anya Ahern. And this viz that we're looking at is actually embedded inside another view. Oh, sorry, here's the viz. That was a screenshot of the viz. It's embedded inside another view such that it's doing live updates from a survey on association of colors with gender. So people enter a survey, it's on Google, and this is pulling data from that Google sheet and updating live with those changes. And it's embedded inside our blog. So you can embed Tableau even inside PowerPoint if you want to. So it could be PowerPoint viz showing Tableau. So that was our last question.
Yes, and I know we didn't get to a lot of questions, so I will be sure to get these over to Jonathan tomorrow, and so he can do a little write-up, you know, with the follow-up questions and the materials for the blog, and then we will make sure to post it on our blog site. So stay tuned for that, and also, you know, if you're on our social media, we'll post the link there. As always, this session was recorded, so you will receive an email tomorrow with that. And if you are interested in the proof of concept that Jonathan talked about, please be sure to answer yes to the survey question when you close out of the webinar, because it will pop up for you. If you have any questions that you didn't get to put in the panel, please just email them to me, Liz, and I'll be happy to pass those along to Jonathan as well. For those of you that are on the East Coast with me, it looks like it's getting worse as opposed to better, so I hope everyone stays safe. And to everybody else, I hope you guys have a good weekend. And thank you, Jonathan, for presenting.
Okay, thank you. And good luck with the storm, everybody.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.